Welcome to the Non-League Papers Non-League Goalmouth. My name is Matt Badcock. I'm joined by our executive editor, John Couch, and Mark Carruthers, our man in the northeast. Chaps, how are we?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm very well. I'm stayed in and watched football last night, and in this new world we live in of streaming and all that kind of stuff. So I caught a bit of York, Carlisle, York. But you were Couchy, you were out and about, watching another title chaser, Rochdale, get a late winner at Solihull. Was it a deserved win for them?
Well, for 95 minutes, I wish I was streaming as well. It was really cold. It was a horrible night.
Is that why you still got your jacket on now? Still warming up?
I've only just thawed out, I think. It was, it was miserable. It was a really miserable night. Driving sort of horizontal rain, very light, and it made it very, very difficult for the players, and it also made for a drab game of football. It really was. Rochdale for much of it. I mean, they controlled the pace of the game, and they dominated pretty much throughout. But the build-up was very, very slow, and I put it in, give as much. What's what I'm looking for? I didn't take the weather to account as I was sort of critiquing them, really. But yeah, they look very lethargic, and I was just thinking to myself, well, we could be sat here until Saturday, and it will still be 0-0. And then all of a sudden, 95th minute, they kind of laid siege on the Solihull goal. Solihull half cleared to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper pumped it back upfield, landed at the feet of Joe Pritchard, who sort of drove into some space down the left channel and attempted a cross, and the cross hit the wind, and it flew over Laurie Walker into the top corner, and cue pandemonium. The Rochdale fans behind the goal were absolutely mad. And you kind of realise immediately what a big goal that could be. As Jimmy McNulty alluded to afterwards, in conditions like that, a tough place to go against Solihull Moorside, who are scoring goals for fun at the moment. It scored 20 goals in the last 5 games preceding that. So that was a really, really good result for them, and they did it without really playing particularly well at all. It was a very, as Chris Millington alluded to as well, it was a very un-Rochdale type goal. But they got there in the end, and that's what good sides do. And already they're a point behind York, but I'm sure we'll talk about York in a minute. But we've got 3 games in the hand, crucially, and if they can start picking up points just like they did at Solihull last night in those kind of testing conditions, which really did sort of test the spirit and the character of that team, then they could go a long, long way. And but they weren't particularly impressive last night, but got the job done, and big win for them.
I saw them at Gateshead on Saturday when they won 2-0 at Gateshead, and I mean, you can see why they've got the best defensive record in the division.
Yeah,
so organised and so disciplined, and
very strong.
I know Gateshead are really struggling at the moment, but there were some really awkward moments for Rochdale. I mean, Levi Manchi hit the bar for Gateshead and had another couple of half chances, but just really found it difficult to break them down. And like I said, just so disciplined, so tight defensively. But it's not just the kind of defence, is it? It's right away from the top end. They really defend so well as a team.
Yeah.
Now, I think we always say, don't we, that if you're going to win a league and you're going to win promotion from the National League, nobody ever does it without being disciplined defensively. And they've got that in absolute bucket loads.
Yeah. I think with the system they play like a 3-2-4-1. So you have to be disciplined to play that formation. You look at it, you think, oh, they're a little bit light at the back. But no, they're not. They control things from the back, and Ebanks Landau and Kyron Gordon and Perry on the other side, and new lad. The 3 of them were controlled everything, and there were times where Solihull were quite happy just to sit back and let them play, and they made it difficult for them. They struggled to break them down, but as I say, in the end they kept plugging away and missed a couple of chances. Laurie Walker was forced into a couple of decent saves. Ryan East went very close just before. Ryan East is a good player, by the way, central midfield player. Him and Harvey Gilmore control things from that central midfield position. And they just, as I say, they found a way. Very good team, very well organised. You could tell. I kind of sat behind the coaches afterwards, and they had like a little debrief in the Solihull dugout, and had a little listen, and everything they do.
Trying to learn something for your walking football.
Oh well, yeah. Find out in the non-league paper on Sunday, yeah. But I mean, everything they do is very, very meticulous, and it was quite interesting to sort of listen to some of the things they say. They weren't talking too loudly, but my little ears on the
little reporter ears were sort of
it was fascinating, really
tuning in. Well, they're probably saying that is an unbelievable win, because these wins at this time of the season that they only make that one little clip on the end of season DVD when you've sort of won promotion. They're only like those little 30-second clips of the goal, and then they move on to the next game. But these are the crucial ones, aren't they, Mark?
They are, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just aghast at Couchy's going back into old-fashioned journalism again. That's good. Living in the modern world, but the old way still works.
We tapping phones next.
Yeah.
So that was a bit satire there.
Allegedly.
No, look, I think you're right, and we always say, don't we? These are the sort of wins that win you titles. It's the what's the old phrase? It's attackers win your games and defenders win your titles, sort of thing. Have I made that up? I haven't made that up, have I?
No, you definitely.
Something like that. Anyway.
If I have, then I'm taking credit for it. But yeah, I think you look at it, and it's going away to those really difficult places when you come through challenging moments that you get. Whether it's a point, whether it's 3 points, you get these accumulation of these little wins or draws that will make a difference at the end of the season. And it is 3 points. It's only 3 points. It doesn't matter if you win 6-0, 7-0, or 1-0. It's still 3 points. And I just think Rochdale, looking at them right the way from the back, from the the young goalkeeper they've got on loan from Manchester City, who really sets the tone, by the way. For such a young goalkeeper, his distribution was incredible, and what was quite a windy day at Gateshead, mainly because there's no other type of day at Gateshead. But he really set the tone playing from the back, and I was really, really impressed with him. And I know from speaking to a few people I know that he is highly rated at Manchester City. They've been really impressed with what he's done at Rochdale and the way Rochdale have handled him. And I just think that solidity will get them through difficult moments going through what is going to be a tricky end of the season for them, and I'm really intrigued to see how they fare.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you say, that setting that tone, and I feel like they've had 3 games in hand for about since the start of the season. Something I can't. We can't quite. I know the game against Southend was abandoned and things like that. I can't quite work out, but they have got these games in hand. They are kind of. I don't think it's right to say they're going under the radar, because they're not. But it feels like people are just talking about Yorks, Carlisle's.
Yeah. I actually put that to Jimmy McNulty last night, and I actually used those words. And he asked me, he said, "Do you think we're going under the radar?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "We're sort of right from the start. York, Carlisle, Forest Green were at the tips of the tongues. No one really spoke about Rochdale being title chasers. Spoke about Rochdale being potential playoff." But not title.
Why aren't people talking about them as title?
What? No, I don't know why that is.
Really should be.
I mean, they had a decent season last year. Solid playoff place. Built on that in the summer. Another year under the belt of Jimmy McNulty. He's no longer a rookie manager for me. He's grown into the role extremely well. And they've got some good players, and they've got depth as well, real depth. And also worth pointing out, last night was Ian Henderson's 500th game for Rochdale. 500 games is absolutely incredible. He's 41 on Saturday, Ian Henderson. So a little celebration for him. But I mean, he come on for the last half hour, and you can never tell he looked 21. It's crazy, really. But nice man too, Ian Henderson.
It's funny, isn't it? How some lads that Peter Pan's around in non-league who just keep going on and on and on, and they don't look any different to how they did 20 years ago in their cases. It's
don't know where I went wrong.
Did you find that when a manager sort of turns it back on you like that, doesn't that sort of I've heard that before, where it's like you say, do you think you deserve more? I think it was Luke Garrett's like, what do you think? And you're like, no one cares what I think. I don't know what I'm talking about. I am just
what do you think, Martin?
When they turn on you like
I had a great example of that a few years back when Neil Aspin was at Gateshead and they got beat. I think it was 1-0 at home against Tranmere. I think Matt Hill scored an absolute worldie. And Gateshead had loads of chances. And after the game, I was in his office with him and a load of student journalists as well, and said to him, do you feel he deserved a point? And he came straight back to me and said, well, do you think we deserved a point? And I was like, well, yeah, probably. Instead of saying what you just said there, Batters, I said, I think you did deserve a point. And he went, well, you're wrong. And I was like, okay. we deserved all three. We should have won that game. And I was like, okay, well, I look a bit silly in front of all these students now, but okay, we'll go with it. So it's funny, isn't it, when they put it back to your managers, but it kind of throws you off guard a bit.
Yeah. Martin Allen was always sort of good for sort of throwing you off guard and asking if you've heard of like Lombardi and people like that, and sort of promising to bring you books next time you went to games so you could read about Vince Lombardi and things like that. Like halfway through the interview, and always good fun and a good challenge for and good lessons for student journalists to see what it's like when you get a bit mugged off. But because Rochdale catch you, their win last night were almost even more important, kind of with what was going on up at Carlisle with York winning that game 3-0. Sort of kind of been a bit of frustration building at Carlisle, possibly. I don't know whether they're getting into that point of the life cycle of coming into the National League where you kind of it all feel like everything's going against you, and sort of moaning about referees and not managing York's game management, we'll say, how they wanted to. But over 2 games they've played each other, York have come out 8-0 on aggregate. That is another brilliant win for York to go up to Carlisle and put in a performance and come away with a victory like that.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, we spoke right at the beginning of the season when York had a bit of a stuttering start, didn't they? And Adam Hinchelwood left and Stuart Maynard come in, and there were a lot of talk. Are York really the real deal? And we stuck to our guns really. And we said, well, yeah, they are, and they are going to come good, and they have come good. All of a sudden, find themselves top of the table, albeit Rochdale had a few games in hand, but they're the one team really up there who look so solid at the moment, and they really don't really look like dropping points. They've got goals in them all the time. You just goals when they need them most, crucially late on in games as well.
Yeah. They did that against Southend on Saturday, didn't they? Losing to Southend. Southend was a great win for Southend, and then who pops up? Ollie Pearce pops up and gets a late equaliser a few minutes to go. That's kind of a nice habit to.
It's a great habit. It's a great habit.
You look at the bench last night as well, and there's so many options off the bench. So even if it isn't working with whoever's named in the starting 11, they can change it up so quickly and go into different styles and different systems. And they've got that versatility within their squad. I just think when you look at what they have within that sort of 16, 18-man squad, there's just so much creativity. There's also an ability to go a bit more disciplined, as you say, but as they can do the whole thing where it's that modern phrase, isn't it? Game management. They go into game management mode to stay out games. I just think they've got a little bit of everything in there, and they're all rightly up there as well. Because as you say, start the season, even when they were stuttering, you still felt they were going to come good, whether it was under Adam or not. And again, the quality in there is clear to see.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They're sort of listening to Mark Hughes and sort of looking at some of the other stuff. They were obviously York have got such an early goal, which Carlisle keep. They conceding these early goals clearly isn't helping. But York have got that one, and then they're sort of and Mark Hughes was kind of saying, well, as we would quite rightly sort of thing. I was watching. I didn't think they were doing loads, but what do you want them to do? Start running around and this was in the first half. You're going to keep the game, so you don't want a team like Carlisle to get into their rhythm, but. Obviously Ben Brooks looked great for them. Alex Hunt in the middle of the park, who scored his scored a penalty as well, and I know he'd come back in from the game at the weekend. So, even when Ollie Pearce kind of isn't, at the centre of all the action, and got Josh Stones is kind of becoming that sort of player that they signed as well, and causing real problems, and there's a nuisance up there. And yeah, it's kind of, I'm looking at the table now, and you're saying York 59, Rochdale 58, although they've got those 3 games in hand, which is obviously huge. Boreham Wood have got a game in hand on York. They're on 56. Carlisle have played more than everybody above them. 1 more than York, 4 more than Rochdale, 2 more than Boreham Wood. They're on 56 points as well. Forest Green dropped points again last night against Altrincham. They're on 55 points. Scunthorpe, who we've talked about having a brilliant season, they've only played 26 games. They're only 6. They've got a game in hand on York, and they're 6 points off them. It feels really, really tight up there. But you kind of, it's going to be interesting this next period, you think, Mark, where we will actually realise how tight is it. At the moment, it's shaping up this unbelievable sort of title race, 6-way title race. But in a month's time, where will we be? And will it be sort of the Yorks and the Rochdales kind of pulling away a little bit? Carlisle need to get back and get that one out of their system pretty quickly. But this next period does feel quite important, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if Rochdale win those games in hand, then all of a sudden you go, well, not that it's over, it won't be, but they could be, 7-8 points clear? And because of their defensive discipline and all that organisation we spoke about earlier, you'd imagine they'll be well suited to see out games when the pressure does really kick in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks of the season. So I think you're right. Yeah, month down the line, we'll know probably who will be involved in the title race and who is probably more looking at the playoff. The playoffs as a more realistic sort of opportunity or target, I guess. But the same thing, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Rochdale in those games in hand because everyone's going to start making such a big thing of them. If they do this, it'll be 4 points clear. If they do this, it'll be 7 points clear, whatever. The pressure on them to take full advantage is going to be huge.
Can't beat the points on the board, can you?
No, this is the thing. This is why I try not to make too much of games in hand because you just think, well, if you put too much on them, the pressure goes higher and higher and higher. And then if you don't take maximum points from the first one, everyone's going to be going, well, hang on. So they've got this game next week, their second game in hand. The pressure just goes up and up and up. So even though, as I say, they are disciplined enough to deal with that side of it, people will be watching them and there'll be a lot of pressure on them in those games. So for me, I think you're probably looking at York, Rochdale and maybe one more. But I think it's a long way from being decided yet.
Yeah, a lot of football to play. It sort of reminds me of Barnet a little bit last year where they were so far ahead and that pressure gets up and they were kind of having this wobble, which was basically drawing a couple of games here and there. But it does all feel, a little way out from that sort of real sort of pressure cooker part of the season. But we're kind of inching there. I don't know. Saturday, 25th of April, chaps. Rochdale York, the final game of the season. Rochdale York. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Goes down
Shades
to
of Arsenal, Liverpool all over, isn't it? I mean, potentially. But I think there's a few frustrated managers at the top of that table this last week or so. We saw Boreham Wood have had a bit of a horror show this week after we've been waxing lyrical over them, haven't we, over the last...
We jinxed them, so we won't talk about
I've had a real wobble, especially at home.
That was a great win for Scunthorpe, though, to go there and win 3-1, and they're 3-0 up as well.
Fantastic result for Scunthorpe, yeah. Robbie Savage is not a happy man at the moment. Forest Green are dropping points quite regularly. Too many draws for them at the moment, and he's not a happy man. And we saw in the aftermath of Carlisle, Mark Hughes and a couple of Carlisle fans coming to blows. I saw a video and
changing views.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, going right. And he was made to say they're top of the league, man. So yeah, clearly a couple of fans who probably underestimated the National League a little bit up in Carlisle, and probably fast realising that it's going to take a very, very consistent and a very solid season to get out of the National League, which is why so few teams do it at the first attempt.
Yeah, they did it all those years ago, didn't they? But kind of the league's different now, and it is that realisation, isn't it? That you sort of going up against. and York have been through this process as well. They've been through it and they've had it. They've gone down again. York obviously went down. Stockport. Look at them now in League One. Came down, went down. You're looking at Morecambe now. Slightly different with all the sort of issues they've gone on. But this is not a fun league to come into. And actually, Carlisle probably to be 3 points off it's probably not the end of the world at this stage. And they've got
they're probably one of the strongest newcomers that we've seen for a long time.
Yeah. Go on, Mark. Sorry, I'll cut across you.
But you look at the last time Carlisle were in the league, and it was still mostly, I would say, part-time.
Yeah, it's totally different division. Yeah,
totally different prospect. It is effectively. I know people won't like this phrase, but it is effectively League 3, if we're honest. Because you look at the size of the clubs, particularly at the top end. Well, actually, not even across the division. The big clubs in there, big formally established football league clubs. Now, I'm not sure what the count is now, but I'd argue over 80% of the league's probably full time. Would we say? And even the one,
it's only really Tamworth are still 290.
Yeah, maybe it's much more.
But then,
more than 80.
Would it be harsh to say that even the clubs that are part time are effectively run like full time clubs anyway? Because that's kind of everything's been taken up a level, and they wouldn't be thriving at this level or surviving at this level if they weren't run that way. So instead of, and this is not criticising the division the way it was the last time Carlisle were in it, but I'd argue the levels in terms of fitness, in terms of professionalism, and how infrastructure is across the board has increased and improved significantly. So, and also there's more eyes on the league now as well because of that. So it's not what it was back then when I think clubs coming out of the Football League kind of knew they were going to be there or thereabouts.
Now the campaign is such a it's taken bigger momentum these days.
Yeah, I've sort of got the table from that last time when they went up, and I'm sort of trying to work out who would have been full time, and I can't not very easy to sort of say, but you've got a totally different sort of stratosphere that the league's in. Yeah, now the competition's in now.
Competing teams really.
Yeah, exactly. But we will see. Obviously, as I say, Carlisle fans making their feelings known at the end and frustrated, and you would be because you've lost 3-0 to York. And I know there's Mark, you was kind of saying didn't feel that close in the game, but the reality is York come away with a 3-0 win. They're feeling very good when they've woken up this morning. Job done, and all on to Saturday. They've got Braintree at home, so you'd expect them to win that. They'd be obviously very strong favourites for that. Braintree would obviously want to have their say. Scunthorpe Forest Green's an interesting one on Saturday as well, isn't it? That sort of 5:30 kickoff. So definitely get into that very interesting next period, and we will see in a month's time kind of where everybody's sort of falling out. Mark, you on Tuesday night, you went to go on Couchy.
I was just gonna say, sorry, doing interrupt. I was just gonna say, Rochdale were crucially at home again. They've been playing at Accrington to the last few weeks of ground share because their pitch has been relayed, but that's all back. They're back home on Saturday. They've got Truro City again. A game they'd be expected and hopeful of winning, and they're really looking forward to having their home crowd back again. That could be another new sort of little dynamic to go in their favour. So
and getting that pitch sorted as well. That was causing them an issue last year, didn't it?
Yeah,
so
managed to get through it as well, didn't they? With title challenge still intact.
Yeah, so that's getting a pitch sorted and not having that issues they had in the run-in last year you would hopefully help. If you're a regular viewer of this YouTube channel, then we'd love you to like and subscribe. And you'd also, if you are a regular viewer, you'd know to go that on Saturday it's now guaranteed that Truro will beat Rochdale and Braintree will beat York, because our record is not the best, and that's why we love it. That's why we love this stupid game. But Mark, on Tuesday you were at South Shields, and both South Shields and Fylde have big games on Saturday, but they are meeting next Tuesday evening. It's interesting one. But how was South Shields the other night?
Strange game, really strange game. Southport were clearly set out to frustrate South Shields, and and sort of sit in and try and protect and disrupt and all that sort of stuff. The kind of dark art of the game, if that's what you want to call it, and but they did it brilliantly. I was really impressed with them. Probably should have been 1, maybe 2-0 up at half time. Had some great chances. But what I'll say is South Shields were so patient and so, I keep using this phrase, but so disciplined. And they just kept going and going and going. And they got their rewards really late on. Brilliant play from Dan Dodds, breaking out of the back line and sort of opening up Southport. Played a lovely through ball to Sonny Finch, who's on loan from Middlesbrough. Good first touch. Ian Watson thought it wasn't, but maybe it's my less educated view. It was a good first touch. And then finished really...
my view on the first touch, has it stayed in play? Good first touch.
But yeah, and Sonny, it's his first goal for South Shields, a really important one, and has taken them 5 points clear at the top of the league. Now, I realise there's a lot of focus on this Fylde game, and I realise we're going to talk about it, next Tuesday night at the First Cloud Arena. But having known Ian for as long as I have, and Mike Williamson's obviously back in at South Shields, helping out the first team coach as well. The one thing I've got from them in the various roles as either a coach or a manager or assistant manager is this constant thing of you only look at your next day, you only look at your next training session, you only look at your next game once that's done. So that's why on Tuesday in my post-match interview, I didn't even bring up the Fylde game because it wasn't worth it, because I knew what the answer would be. So yes, we can talk about it, but I couldn't tell you what Ian Watson's thinking about Tuesday night, because even if I'd asked him, he would have said, well, we've got 2 training sessions and we've got a game against Marine first. So that's where they are on Saturday, and that's where their focus will be, getting something at Marine. And I mentioned before we were recording, playing Marine is quite a pointed thing for South Shields, because last day of last season, the last game under Elliot Dickman, even though we didn't know it was then, they went to Marine and got hammered, and got really hammered. The first game of this season, so the first game under Ian Watson, was against Marine and they won. So, it feels like a bit of a landmark moment. But no matter what happens between now and the end of the season, I don't think South Shields fans should get away from the fact that they finished last season comfortably in the bottom half of the table. And they've had this massive squad overhaul during the summer, where it is a largely new-look squad. Granted, Will Jenkins and Dan Wards were there last season, but it is largely a new-look squad. So to be top of the league, to have this squad that's been moulded together with some key players missing through injury, I think Ian Watson and Carl Magnay have done an unbelievable job there and deserve so much credit. And they deserve as well a lot of patience throughout whatever comes in the next 2-3 months.
Would you think, were they ever expected to be in a title race, even sort of in those sort of quiet whispers, at the start pre-season? Well, actually, I think we've got something kind of going on here.
It depends if you want my opinion of what I think or my opinion of what they'll think. So my opinion is, and I think I said it in a video that I did when they were appointed. I might have even wrote a piece. I think one of my columns for the NLP said as such, that I thought this is kind of the way it would go. Now, I didn't think they'd be 5 points clear in mid-January, but I thought they'd be up there because I knew what Ian Watson and Carl Magnay and the people they've got around them would do. But I think if you put it to them, and this is really what I would consider to be quite boring, because we don't want this, do we? What we don't as journalists, we want sensationalism. We want, we're going to go and win the league. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But they will say, and I've had it this week from Rob Elliott as well, by the way, who's obviously very much of a similar mould. They want to get the process right so it's kind of ready for long-term success, rather than just looking at short-term success that's not built on strong foundations. So they'll say, we'll look at getting the next training session right. We'll look at getting everything out the next training session. We'll look at getting everything out the next game, rather than going, we think we can win the league this season. And I realise that's really, really boring to supporters and ourselves as journalists, but that's how they'll look.
Yeah, it is true. Like I say, we like them to come in slightly bit more bonkers. But Marine, good win on the other night. They beat Radcliffe 3-0, so they've got their playoff hopes as well. Not an easy one. Obviously, Fylde going down for Oxford City, so it'll be interesting what it is on Tuesday night. South Shields in one universe could be, I suppose, 11 points clear, and then in another one they could be a point behind, depending on what sort of happens over the next couple of games. But yeah, is it interesting? It will be fascinating to get to that game and see where they are. But again, so much football to be played. I know we kind of, without wanting to sound like a manager ourselves, it's there's a lot kind of going on. But let's drop down to step 3, Mark, and talk about Hebburn, because I think you talking about your column there. You're going to be talking about Hebburn this week, and they've gone top of the NPL Prem.
Yeah, people just have to read it, so just move on.
Yeah, that's it. Get on the website.
Yeah, look,
I've read it all now. Just go a little teaser.
So
you've written it yet? You don't even know what you're going to write, probably. If anything like me, so write a comment. I don't know. Actually, know what I'm going to write until it happens.
You see how it goes. No, look, I think you look at Hebburn last season. So their first season in the history in Step 3 had a similar start to the season they've had now, where I think going into the new year they were kind of there or thereabouts in terms of the playoffs, and then second half of the season was just a bit of a horror show, where they had injuries, they had suspensions, it didn't quite work. And I think it was only 3 weeks before the end of the season when they actually confirmed the status in Step 3 for this season. So then in the summer, they've lost Amar Purewal, who was, I would call him the talisman, who, the main front man, the captain, he was the leading goal scorer. So he's gone to Stockton. And they brought in Gary Martin, who this time last year I think was still playing professional in Scandinavia, but signed for Bishop Auckland, came back to the North East. A very different style of striker, and they've kind of brought in different styles of players. And I hope no one at Hebburn takes this as an offence, but I would say they were quite direct last season. Whereas now, they play out wide, they get the ball out wide, they play a bit in midfield. They've got a great midfield. I mean, they brought in Robert Briggs, who just left South Shields earlier this season. And he won't play long ball football. He gets it down and tries to dictate the game. And they've got... It's such a... Again, I'm probably giving a lot what I'll say in the column here, but the transformation from a team that finished bottom half last season in the NPL Premier to a team that are now top of the league following that win on Tuesday night against Whitby. It's incredible. And I almost feel as if, people will be talking about your Hensford Towns, because I think everyone here would say they were title favourites this season. Stockton being the playoff, or should have been the playoff final last year, and will be there or thereabouts this season. People talking about them. And there's other clubs in the mix as well. Hebburn, despite the fact they're top of the league, despite the fact I had a long unbeaten run, I don't feel as if we're talking about them. Now, there is going to be difficult times ahead. They've got some really tricky games. They've still got to go at Hensford.
That game was off the other week, wasn't it? Called off week before.
They've got themselves in the mix, and they've got themselves in a position where anything can happen. Now, I would go back 2 years when they came from absolutely nowhere in the NPL East, sorry. They had this massive unbeaten run or unbelievable run of form in the second half of the season, and on the last day of the season won the title. Now, if they can draw on that experience in the second half of the season, anything could happen. But what I will say, looking at the bigger picture again and being boring, is there has been progression from last season. They've got some unbelievable off-field plans where there's a new stand, there's going to be new facilities, new pitches. That's going in place in the next 18 months to 2 years. So the bigger picture is Hebburn Town as a football club, whether they go up or not, is going to be in a much better place than it was 12 months ago. And I realise that's boring. But looking at this season, they've got themselves in a position to go and attack the final months of the season. And who knows? They could be a National League North club next season.
Definitely. Couchy kind of sort of sinks us into, or puts us onto another club who's had a great turnaround at Step 3 is Poole Town. Obviously, I spoke to Pat Sirachi down there the other week for a piece in the NLP. They left Gosport, Pat Sirachi and Joe Lee. They left Gosport last year, didn't they? Kind of pushing for the playoffs, and went to a side pushing for, struggling down at the bottom end of the table. Kept them up, and then they've really built on this season. I've got Shaquille Gwenge scoring goals for fun. I think he's got 31 now. He's up to in 29 appearances. So he's flying. They're flying. They've got Walton Hersham Saturday, because Walton are flying even higher. They're 11 points clear as it stands, with 2 games in hand over Poole. 13 points clear of Gloucester, who they've played the same amount of games, who are back in third. Huge game on Saturday at Walton and Hersham. It's kind of one of those. Poole, they need to win it, but if Walton and Hersham win that one, then we're really starting to look at sort of titles being what kind of matter of when.
Yeah, I mean it's the game of the day for me. Nationwide, it's absolute stormer. Walton Hersham had a couple of tricky results in the last couple of weeks, but before that they were absolutely flying, scoring goals for fun. And as I say, as you say, 11 points clear at the top of the table. And Poole, it's great to see Poole up there. Poole, like big club for that level, not really hit the heights for a good few years now. Obviously, that love affair with Tommy Killick ended the last sort of couple of years, and they sort of struggled to find their feet really since then. But the 2 guys in there now, Sirachi and Lee, they've done absolutely tremendous job and hold Poole up into a position, right, as a bit like heaven, as Mark said, a position where they can strike, and you just get the feeling that that Saturday is their time. If they are going to do anything, then I think they're going to need to get something out of the game at Walton. Walton go 14 points cleared, and the way they're playing, I think that's going to be very, very difficult to break down. If it's 8. Then there's a glimmer of hope for them. So, big game. Really looking forward to this one. Hopefully there'll be a big crowd up Stomp On Lane. I know the crowd are really on board with what they're doing there. Next week they're at home to Woking in the FA Trophy last 16. That's a big game for them. Big Surrey derby. They'll be absolutely chomping at the bit for that one. And so two massive home games for them in the space of 7 days. And hopefully the locals can get out and get behind them.
Yeah, I think they've also got Gloucester on Tuesday night as well, haven't they, at home? So
is it really? Well,
unless that one's been moved out, but so that's if. That's
what a week for them.
A big week. And if you're Woking, you're thinking, I sort of don't really need that. I didn't really need that in there. Didn't need that FA Trophy draw away at Walton.
No. Woking, they won't fear Woking, but I don't think Woking will fancy that very much.
No, but obviously Woking got to the semis last year, so maybe they can they're sort of looking to have that right. Let's go on to the trophy. I've spoke to Kev Wilkin not long before we came on and recorded this. Obviously, AFC Telford got a win down at Hornchurch on Tuesday night in that rearranged game, which is brilliant win for them. Down at mine, Hornchurch going well, but that's a great win for them. We're down to the sort of fun part now. It is, just think everybody in there is kind of thinking, if we can just get through this next round, there's a world of possibilities. Couch, any others that sort of draws that you sort of stood out, or any games that you're looking forward to next week? I mean, obviously you've got Chatham at home to Southend.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to point out. Really, I mean, obviously Chatham beat Carlisle in the last round. I mean, what a win that was. But unfortunately for them, it was kind of overshadowed by Macclesfield on the day. So what
did they do? Did they beat?
I don't know what happened there, but I mean, you'd be forgiven for for that going under the radar. I kind of felt for them a little bit, because normally they'd be front and centre of the NLP on the Saturday morning, and well worth all the plaudits that they were getting. Unfortunately, as I say, Macclesfield sort of stole the limelight a little bit, and but now they've got another great chance at home to Southend. It's a proper Kent Essex coastal derby. They're going to absolutely relish that. There'll be a capacity 3,000 crowd there. As there is, I think they might have to look at trying to increase the capacity of their stadium, because they're filling it at quite regular occurrences at the moment with big games, and they're going really well in the Isthmian Premier. And as I say, they've got Southend. Again, I don't think Southend will fancy that very much. They'll be absolutely waiting champion a bit really for Southend. I think that'll be a really, really crunch game, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, Mark, it does feel quite an open competition, doesn't it? I've got Southend in there, obviously Forest Green. I know Robbie Savage has talked about they're at home to Wealdstone. He's talking about trying to have that really good run. Scunthorpe still in there. They've got Horsham at home. And Horsham having a brilliant season, unbelievable season since their promotion last year. Just on the fringe of the National South playoffs and now in this part of the FA Trophy as well. But it does feel the Oval's still in there as well. So they got Telford, which will be a tricky one. But it does always does feel like this sort of point. Anybody could emerge from this pack of 16.
But do you not feel as if the trophy is always quite an open competition? Because it's very rare that a team that does well in the league wins the trophy, because they tend to shift the focus to, because of the prize that's there for winning the National League. That kind of feels like a bigger prize than win the trophy, and that's not me downgrading the trophy at all. It's just how the priorities are there, because what this the promised land of the EFL is. But
I think the new playoff system hasn't helped either, is it? I don't think the prize is so big.
Yeah, and you look at the last sort of winners of the FA Trophy, and even some of the finalists, the amount of Step 2 or Hornchurch
Step 3, yeah. They were Step 3 when they won it, yeah.
You look at the amount of Step 3, Step 2 sides. I mean, Spennymoor getting there last year as well.
Yeah.
It just always feels like a competition. Like, we could have sat there at the start of the season, we probably would have said similar names will be in there. So and granted, some of them still are. Your Forest Greens, as you mentioned. You may well have mentioned clubs like that, but it wouldn't shock me if the final was between one of the lower ranked National League clubs and a Step 2 club, because that's kind of happened in years. And so it's impossible to call a winner. I mean, we can sit here and say there's favourites. As you mentioned, the clubs that are sort of top end of the National League will naturally be favourites. But it wouldn't shock me if none of them made it, because their priority will switch to, can we get that playoff spot? Can we get that title push? So I don't know. Basically, I've spent a minute there saying essentially I don't know.
Well, I think we're all kind of, because we've seen Brackley win it under Kev Wilkin, who's now obviously because we saw North Ferry win it though. In that game against Wrexham, that totally bonkers game that will always live long in the memory. Hornchurch have been there, and they beat Hereford, and Concord have been there in recent years, and like you're saying, Spenny, and it does have that feel of of such an open competition. That's what makes it so. I know some people sort of talk it down, but that's what makes it such a good competition, so interesting and so varied. And it does give those players, they've all got to be thinking, we have got a chance here. We can get there. There's a realistic reason to go out and give everything to go and play at Wembley. And I just think when it gets to this stage now, I'm just thinking, could we? You've got to get through this one, obviously, and then kind of get this. Once you get to the quarters and get those nice draws, you can get that home one. Then it really is. It really is on. But you got some big National League North clubs in that. Fylde, Southport, that brilliant win down at Eastleigh. I think Southport. Looking at the table, it doesn't look great, but they've been on a decent run recently. Obviously, they defeated South Shields, one of their first in a long time. They've been down to Bedford, and they've been all over. They've been down to Eastleigh twice. That game getting postponed about an hour and a bit before.
Kidderminster still in it.
Kiddie's still in there, against Halifax. Halifax have had such a great history in recent years.
Got a big chance there. Got a big chance.
Adam Leighton will be desperate to kind of get them going through there. You can imagine Scunthorpe getting there. Obviously, they've got this playoff ambition now, but to give their fans something to cheer about, really on the national stage again would be brilliant, and get a final at Wembley. And you're looking even like Tamworth at home to Marine. Good opportunity for them. Tamworth, they'd love to get back to a trophy final as well. So it is Woking, their history. It does feel like everybody kind of in there has got to be thinking, can this be a brilliant opportunity for us? Yeovil, can you get their back? All their fans back at one of those ends of Wembley. It's brilliant. It can be a really brilliant competition, and clubs can really use it to sort of bounce on, Couchy, can't they?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you only have to look at last year's winners, Aldershot. I mean, it gives hope, as Mark said, to those sort of mid-table, lower league table, National League sides where opportunities are now open. Over the years, Gateshead we've seen win it. FC Halifax Town, Brackley Town from Step 2, Hornchurch has been from Step 3. The previous winners indicate that this is probably the most open of eras, really, in the FA Trophy, as we said earlier. With the promotion being such high stakes now, and the fact you can finish 7th in the National League and still potentially go up into the Football League, and the fact that trophy games are on a Saturday, so if you have a good trophy run, then all of a sudden it puts back your league games, and of course then your schedule goes. It's a lot of managers that think, you know what, we can only prioritise one over the other, and the league will win every time.
I'm trying to look back at who the last sort of double winners were. I think, sort of looking back at, I remember when Grimsby got there and they lost to Halifax. That was the week after they'd won.
Didn't York do it 1 year?
Promotion. York did it. Yeah, they beat Newport, and then they went. I think it went Trophy League when they beat Luton in the playoff final.
Trophy York did a promotion trophy double.
And then Cambridge did it a couple of years later. Yeah, but that was when Cambridge played in the trophy. I think it was in March, and they beat Gosport in the final. Then in March, and then they went back in May and beat Gateshead. Grimsby a couple of years they lost to Halifax. I'm pretty sure they'd won it promotion at Wembley the week before, and possibly been, how should we put it, enjoying each other's company in public establishments for about 7 days leading up to the final.
Brilliant.
But like Orient got there the year they won the title and lost to Fylde. Harrogate technically are probably the last double winners, but that was that mad COVID year where they beat Notts County and then went back however many months later.
They had to go back, didn't they? Notts County.
Yeah, because I remember they went to I think they played Notts County in the semi-final as well, and they were a Football League side, played the semi-final.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Harrogate were the Football League team. Yeah, of course.
They were. They were in the Football League, but
the one I always felt sorry for was Solihull because they lost the promotion final on penalties, wasn't it? And then went and lost the trophy final 7 days later
Saturday
on penalties as well. Just
two penalty defeats in the space of 7 days at Wembley.
Yeah. And didn't Tyree Shade, who's flying for Burton Albion, missed in both. I think Josh Labadie did as well. So that's awful way to lose a game is penalties. Isn't it? It's So it sort of does happen a little bit, but you're right. It's well, maybe we'll probably talk about the FA VARs next week. Obviously, that's getting down to the same stage. Lots of interesting stories there. Whitstable Town and Holders still in it, but we'll come on to that next week. But it'll be that non-league finals day is kind of starting to come into the conversation. You can't we're starting as a journalist, you're starting to sort of ask about the Wembley. Looking for that line of the W words banned. So it's a nice, easy intro. Yeah.
Just before we go, Batters, I just want to give a massive shout out to Brantham Athletic. Won their first game of the season on Saturday at the 26th attempt, and I've just been on the phone to their co-manager Craig Clark, and they've had it really tough up there, and but he was telling me about the togetherness of the squad and keeping players motivated under such a run. And they finally got there in the end, and it's a really, really nice story. He was telling me that they were just 2-1 up. They were hanging on to the end against Downham, who were right down there with them, and Downham were on top. And he said he could feel and see like the fog descend on the ground, and the linesman was whispering to the referee, can't see the other end of the pitch, and they're hearing that other games locally are being abandoned. Can you imagine what their reaction would have been? Oh no, we haven't won a game in the season, and then we're just on the verge of winning it. And thankfully they got there in the end, and the referee didn't abandon it, and they got their big win. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, fair play to them. It always reminds me of this story told to us by one of our old friend of the paper, Barry Lenton, who's a big Marine fan and done a lot of sort of stuff in the community for Marine down the years, and I think he's won our fan of the year as well in the National Game Awards. But he was told us about a story down in Cornwall where the fog came in during the game, game got abandoned. The only problem was no one told the linesman, and he was still stood out there for about 5 minutes afterwards. Didn't realise everyone had gone in.
Brilliant.
Come out and fetch him, because that's how much the fog had kind of come down.
There's a similar story with, I think it was Sam Bartram, ex-Charlton keeper, who's from Hebburn, or certainly from South Tyneside, and was playing in a similar game where he was still stood in goal when everyone else had been taken off. I mean, this is going back to like the 1930s, I think it was. Quite a famous story.
I've had similar one to I think it was an FA Vars match at Cove FC quite a few years ago, and on Couch you would have been down to Cove. It was in the Woods as well, and you can kind of
old haunts.
Get in that you sort of can squeeze down this lane and squeeze in, and you got your car around the pitches. That's the sort of proper kind of.
If there's a car coming the other way, you got to go all the way back.
Yeah, it's an absolute disaster for the car coming the other way. It's just like it's just chaos. But you sort of get in there. So it started raining during the sort of, I think it was in the first half. I thought I've got to get to the car. I had to just dash to take cover. It just really started pouring down. Got in the car, and I was sort of watching a little bit through and then the rain just like almost like someone poured a bucket over my car, and I just couldn't see anything. I just sat there for sort of 10 minutes, and I just poked my head out, and basically everyone had gone. It was just like the game would have had, there was nobody there. And I've just been sat in my car waiting for thinking, I wonder if this game's going to get called off, and it had. But that's the life and the perils of non-league journalism. Games don't always get, but as you say, shout out to Grantham Athletic, got their win, staved off the fog, and got the job done. But chaps, appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in. As I said earlier on, if you can like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. And we will catch you all next time after a huge weekend across the whole other country in non-league. So enjoy if you're out at a game, have fun, and we will see you next time.